Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to staying informed. Today, we're looking at something quite specific, but really important if you're interested in home energy efficiency in Great Britain.
That's right. We're diving into the latest guidance for the Great British Insulation Scheme, or GBIS. This is version 2.0, just published on August 7th, 2025.
Hot off the presses, then. And this isn't just a minor tweak, is it? You mentioned it follows some key changes to the underlying regulations earlier in the year.
Exactly. This v2.0 guidance incorporates those changes and clarifies a lot. It really matters for energy suppliers, for the installer doing the work, and crucially, for households like yours considering these upgrades. It's all about refining the process.
Okay, so just a quick recap. GBIS is the scheme running alongside ECO4 until March 2026, obligating energy suppliers to deliver insulation measures. Big targets aiming to save households money, cut carbon, the usual important stuff.
Yep, nearly £56 million in notional annual bill savings is the goal, and the core aims are still fuel poverty alleviation, carbon reduction, energy efficiency, and sparking innovation.
So our mission today is to unpack the updates in this version 2.0. What's changed? What's actually new compared to, say, version 1.1? And what's it mean practically?
Let's get straight into those differences.
Right, so before we jump into the brand new elements, what core parts of GBIS are being reinforced or perhaps subtly adjusted in v2.0? What's the foundation we're building on?
Well, the basic structure is familiar, but the focus is sharper. The two main eligibility groups are still key. You've got the low-income group.
That's the one mirroring ECO4's Help the Heat group criteria, right? Targeting less efficient homes, SAP rating DG, occupied by low-income or vulnerable households.
Precisely. And then there's the general group, which is broader. That's homes in council tax bands AD in England or AE in Scotland and Wales, again with those SAP DG ratings. So wider reach there.
Okay, so that two-pronged approach continues. What about the requirement to help the low-income groups specifically?
That's still very much in place. At least 20% of each supplier's annual target must go to that low-income group. There's some flexibility with GBIS flexors referrals from councils or suppliers making up or up to 80% of that 20% target.
Right, the locally identified need.
Yes, but critically, at least 20% of that low-income minimum has to be met through standard means-tested benefits or by targeting the least efficient social housing, so a guaranteed minimum for those verified routes.
Understood. And the scheme's been running a while now. That early delivery period back in 2023, that's history now, but still relevant for measures installed then.
Correct. March 30th to July 24th, 2023. That's defined, done. Ofgem continues to administer the whole thing, gather data, and enforce compliance. And it's always worth remembering, this guidance helps explain things, but the actual law, the ECO4A order, is the ultimate authority. This document supports it, doesn't replace it.
Okay, foundation's clear. Now for the really interesting part, the operational shifts in v2.0. These are the changes that affect how things get done. What are the big ones?
Right, let's talk specifics. One of the major updates, and it's all about timing, is the requirement for RDSAP versions, RDSAP. That's the software for home energy assessments.
Ah, yes, the energy performance calculations.
Exactly. So before June 15th, 2025, everything pre-retrofit used RDSAP 2012. Simple enough. But now there's a transition. Between June 15th, 2025 and January 29th, 2026, installers can use either RDSAP 2012 or the newer RDSAP 10 for those initial assessments.
Okay, a bit of flexibility for a period, but there's a deadline.
There is. From January 29th, 2026 onwards, any new pre-retrofit assessments must use RDSAP 10. No choice after that date for new projects starting their assessment.
And what about the assessment after the work is done?
Crucially, the post-retrofit assessment must always use the same RDSAP version as the pre-retrofit one. So if you started with 2012, you finish with 2012. Started with 10, finish with 10. It ensures consistency for each individual project.
Right, keeps it like for a specific house's assessment, even as the overall standard changes. Makes sense. What else is changing in terms of what work can actually be done?
This is quite a significant one for homeowners. V2.0 allows for two separate insulation measures to be eligible within the same GBIS retrofit.
Oh, previously it was generally just one main one.
Often, yes. Now, if the measures are installed on or after November 14th, 2024, and both are completed within 3 months of the first one starting, you can claim for two. Think cavity wall and loft insulation, or maybe underfloor and pitched roof.
That sounds much more practical. Allows for a more thorough upgrade in one hit.
It does. It encourages a more holistic approach rather than just tackling one issue. It could make a much bigger difference to the home's warmth and bills. faster.
And what about heating controls? I heard smart thermostats are getting a specific mention now.
They are. This is another change effective from November 14th, 2024. Before that date, a smart thermostat might have been installed, but it was just notified as a generic programmer and room thermostat with no extra score value.
So it wasn't really recognized for its smart capabilities in the scoring.
Not explicitly, no, but now it's a standalone eligible measure with its own score, as long as it meets the necessary standards like the Boiler Plus standard criteria if you're using RDSA P2012, or being listed in the product characteristics database if using RDSA 10.
Okay, so proper recognition. Is there any other benefit?
Yes, an interesting point. If the house didn't have any kind of programmer or room thermostat before, installing a qualifying smart thermostat now means you can potentially claim scores for both the smart thermostat and the basic programmer room stat function it provides.
So it's incentivizing adding proper controls where none existed before, using modern tech. Good stuff. Any other key operational changes?
Yes, a very recent one affecting rural area definitions, specifically for Scotland and Wales. This kicked in basically immediately with this guidance release.
Go on.
Okay, so before July 29th, 2025, they were using older classification documents to define rural 2011 for Wales, 2016 for Scotland. But after August 1st, 2025, they must use the updated 2021 classifications for Wales and the 2022 version for Scotland.
And why does that matter so much?
It matters because it determines eligibility for the 20% off-gas rural uplift in funding score. So a property previously considered rural might not be under the new definition or vice versa. It directly impacts the economics of projects in those areas. It's a change suppliers need to be right on top of, effective now.
That's a really specific but potentially impactful update for certain locations. Anything else on the data or standards front?
Two more quick ones. First, consumer contributions. Since summer 2024, installers have been required to record the amount, if any, that the household paid towards the measure. This goes into the Trustmark retrofit portal.
Just for transparency and analysis, I assume.
Exactly. Dozenzi and Ofgem want better data on how the scheme operates financially. And second, the PAS standards transition is now fully complete.
Right, the quality standards for installation work.
Yes. The newer PAS 23.523D to 2023 standards came out in September 2023. There was an 18-month transition period to let the industry adapt, but that ended on March 30th, 2025. So any installations happening now must adhere to the 2023 versions. No more using the older ones. It locks in the latest quality protocols.
Okay, quite a raft of operational changes there. So with all this updating, what does it mean for proving you're eligible in the first place and the paperwork involved? Have the rules tightened up?
They certainly have, particularly on the evidence front. One really crucial change relates to proving low-income eligibility for the Help to Heat group.
What's changed there?
Matched Warm Home Discount Core Group notices, the letters people receive are no longer accepted as evidence, and neither is just showing an energy bill with the WHD rebate on it.
Really? So what do they accept now?
It's stricter. They want official benefit award letters or confirmation via the DWP data matching routes, like through the Energy Saving Trust. And all evidence has to be dated within 12 months before the measure is completed. It definitely narrows the acceptable proof.
Okay, that's a significant tightening for demonstrating low-income status. What about the general documentation installers submit? You mentioned increased scrutiny.
Absolutely. The v2.0 guidance is much more detailed and, frankly, strict on documentation quality. They're emphasizing completeness, legibility, clear photos that must be date and geo-stamped, minimal abbreviations.
Sounds like they're clamping down on sloppy paperwork. What about mistakes?
Very specific instructions. Errors must be corrected with a single line strike through, then signed and dated by the person who originally signed it. And absolutely no correction fluid or similar obliteration. Any changes made after something's been signed off can lead to rejection.
Wow, they mean business. What about digital forms and signatures?
For digital software, it can't auto-populate fields that should be specific to the property or the work done. Proper version control is needed, and once signed electronically, dates and signatures are locked, they can't be changed.
And the signatures themselves.
This is a big point of emphasis. Signatures, whether actual ink, stylus on a screen, or even a finger signature, have to be applied individually to each required signature box by the correct person.
So no copying and pasting a signature image across multiple boxes.
Explicitly forbidden. The guidance says photocopying or screen grabbing signatures to duplicate them is not permitted. They even state that knowingly making a false declaration is a criminal offense, and non-compliance on signatures will lead to the measure being rejected and potentially reported to Action Fried or the police.
That is a very strong message about integrity and accuracy. It seems designed to prevent any corner cutting or potential fraud.
That's clearly the intention. Protect the scheme's integrity and public funds.
Okay. One last area of rules, infill. That's where non-eligible homes can sometimes get work done alongside eligible neighbors, right? Any updates there?
Yes, the rules for infill have been clarified and slightly updated in v2.0. It's mainly for things like solid wall insulation, where it makes sense to treat a whole block or terrace.
So what are the ratios now?
For blocks of flats, it's a 1.1 ratio. So for every GBIS eligible flat getting work, like solid wall or cavity wall insulation, one non-eligible infill flat in the same block can also be treated. And interestingly, there are no SAP rating restrictions for those infill flats.
And for houses in a street?
For houses, it's a stricter 1.3 ratio, one infill house for every 3 GDIS eligible houses on the same street getting work. And for houses, the only eligible infill measure is solid wall insulation.
Okay, so more restrictive for houses. And is there a time frame?
Yes, the infill measures have to be completed within 3 months of the main GBIS eligible measure or measures they're associated with. Keeps the projects linked.
Wow. Okay, that really covers a lot of ground. We've seen some quite significant shifts here in v2.0, haven't we?
Definitely.
From the detailed RD set version timelines, allowing multiple insulation measures now, making smart thermostats count properly, those very current changes to rural definitions in Scotland and Wales.
Right through to the new data on consumer contributions and that major tightening on evidence and documentation standards.
It's a picture of a scheme being actively refined and managed.
Exactly. It shows Ofgem and DSNZ are responding to how the scheme operates in practice, trying to improve effectiveness, ensure quality, and maintain that crucial integrity. For you listening, staying aware of these details is really important if you're engaging with the scheme or just interested in how UK energy efficiency policy evolved.
And this constant evolution, these refinements, it does make you think, doesn't it? In this big push for energy transition, what sort of unforeseen opportunities or maybe challenges do these ongoing tweaks to schemes like GBIS create for the bigger picture? And how can we, just by being informed, play a part in making sure these initiatives actually succeed?
That's a great question to ponder.
Well, we hope this deep dive has given you that useful shortcut to understanding the latest on the Great British Insulation Scheme. Remember, the path to energy efficiency is always being adjusted, so keeping curious is definitely your friend.
Absolutely. And if you want the full chapter and verse, the complete GBIS delivery guidance v2.0 document is available on the official Ofgem website.
Thanks for tuning into the deep dive.